Good evening, everyone. Welcome to No Judgment Here with TISH, the podcast. I'm so glad that you guys are here. Today, welcome to our new set. I have a beautiful couple here who has an incredible story, and I know that each and every one of you that are listening, that their story is going to impact you in some form or fashion. Their life started out just like all of our lives starts out. It's a married couple, you're dating, you get together, you get married, you're going along, and then tragedy hits. To me, I feel like it's tragedy. To them, maybe not. But they have a story of illness, the loss of limbs, heart attacks, having children, kiddos going to college, careers, and how this journey changed their lives from what they thought it was going to be. So without further ado, I want to welcome my guests, Greg and Stacy Clark. Thank you guys for coming. I'm so glad that you guys are here. I want to start off first by having you guys introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about what you're doing right now. And then I want to ask you a couple of questions about how you guys got together and all that good stuff.
Okay. Well, I'm Stacy, and right now I'm on summer break. I'm a teacher, and so I'm really doing a lot of nothing.
Very nice.
But no, summertime is always my time to recharge. And so I purposefully do that. I plan on, I don't think about school for at least the first month. And that's by design, because I need to just recharge and be ready. And then I try to do a little bit of reflection. What did I do well the year before? What I didn't do well? What can I change? And I haven't always done that. And the last year I started it. And it's made me a better person. It's made me a better teacher, because I can honestly look at myself and you say, you know what? That was not a good idea. It didn't work. I need to do something different. And it just gave me a different perspective. So I'm self-reflecting right now.
I love that. And that is such a great tool and advice for teachers. My sister is a special ed teacher, has been a special ed teacher for 20 plus years.
Oh, bless her.
And her summers off are her summers off as well. And I think that is such a great thing to reflect and to recharge and just not think about school, because pretty soon, I mean, gosh, summer flies and then you're into getting ready and preparing your lesson plans for school, the school year, and all the stress that comes from it, but also all the joy that comes from being a teacher, I'm sure.
And
So
it's just a summer of, I read. That's what I do.
I love that.
But I think it's important for teachers to take that time and not feel bad about, I'm not doing anything. You just need it. It's for your mental health, for your family, and for your students that you have next year.
Absolutely. And I love you said that too, because a lot of people feel guilty. I think a lot of teachers, or even people that maybe go on sabbatical or take a break from their career, that they feel guilty for doing nothing. But man, you need it. You need it. You need it.
You really do.
Thank you for sharing that. Sure. All right.
I'm Greg, and I am right now, I'm getting ready to start back teaching again. I took, from 2019 until now, I've been doing insurance. I did a little bit of teaching, did some long-term sub stuff in the last 5 years, and then started in 23, 24, out teaching, and then we'll talk about it later, but then I had to have amputation, so I had to leave in the middle of the school year. But I'm excited about it. I'm teaching 7th grade like I have before, and so people ask me, "You're teaching middle school kids? You're teaching 7th graders?" Oh no! And I like it. I really love it. People I've talked to that just in everyday life have said, "Why aren't you teaching? Why aren't you teaching?" Just over and over and over. They said, because that's all you talk about. That's what I can tell. That's what your passion is, and it's true. So I'm excited about getting back into the teaching.
Absolutely.
And Stacy says that I like middle schoolers so much because I get their humor. I'm really a 14-year-old boy trapped in a 58-year-old body. So.
Yes, he is.
And I have to say, I'm blessed. My daughter had Mr. Clark, Greg, as a teacher, and yeah, that's where you should be. A huge blessing to every child that you've ever taught. And I know that for sure from my daughter being in one of your classes. So yes, exciting. Congratulations. So I want to get started. I know we have a lot to talk about, but I want to find out how you guys met, how long you've been married, and if you guys have any kiddos.
Okay. I'll tell this story. This is from my perspective. Now, Stacy is close to the same, but we met on a blind date at church. I had a friend that Stacy was friends with, and she called me and said, "Hey, I've got this girl who wants you to meet." And I said, "No, I don't want to meet her." I didn't have any idea, know anything about her. I said, "No." And I just got out of a relationship. I said, "Nah, I think I'm going to become a monk. It's what I'm going to do." So I just didn't want to mess with it. And finally she called me on a Wednesday night. She said, "Greg Clark, I'm bringing Stacy to church on Sunday night. You better be there or I will hurt you." And as big as I am, and I said, "Yes, ma'am." I said yes, Tanya, I will be there. So I get there, and I came in with a friend of mine, and I walked up to her and stuck my hand out and said hello, and I turned to my friend over my shoulder, and I said, I thought under my breath where only he could hear me, and it wasn't. I said, "She's short and she's got dark hair, strike two." And
Wow.
and then turned and said, "We're sitting up front," and just walked up front.
Left me standing there.
And Tanya is just like standing by her, and she's like, oh my goodness. So we get up there, and so we're going through, going through the service and all. And Tanya reaches over and digs her fingernails in my leg. She said, "You're so rude." And she said, we're going to go bowling after this, and you're coming, and you better make up for it." I said again, "Yes, ma'am," and just went on. We went bowling that night. Well, let me go back. Stacy has told me before that the only reason she didn't leave when I said that is because she knew that her church had already started, and she didn't want to walk in late. So she stayed.
I didn't look at him the whole time. I just had church.
Yeah. Well, we went bowling, and it's funny. People said, "You're kidding." We're bowling. They put us on a lane by ourselves, so we'd have to talk and have to get to know each other. And I fell in love that night.
Really?
Yes.
What was your type back then?
Above 6 foot and blonde hair.
Gotcha.
And
okay.
I got 5'2" and brown hair.
Oh, that's so sweet. So you knew that night.
I knew that night, and I bought the ring about a week later and carried it in my pocket for a week, trying to figure out when I was going to do this and where. We were engaged 2 weeks later.
Oh my gosh.
And we got engaged at Cousin's Barbecue. We're eating dinner, and I had one of my friends, Craig, come over and bring it in a dessert to go thing. He said, "Here you go, take this to your dad," and set it in front of her. And she looks down and she's like, "What is that?" And so I got it out, got down on one knee, and everybody in the restaurant was looking at us all. So
Yeah, they all knew. I did.
everybody knew but her. I mean, even the other customers knew.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Okay, so Stacy, let me ask you. So he fell in love night one after you 2 strikes out.
Yeah.
He fell in love, and then what were you feeling?
Well, and I ended up going because I worked with Tanya, and she kept telling me every day, "You've got to meet this guy. You've got to meet this guy." I was like, "No, I don't want to." And finally I went, "Okay, fine. I'll go," because it was church and I could do that. And then when he said that, I'm just thinking, I knew I didn't want to come, but okay. And like he said, I didn't want to leave and walk in late. So I sat there, and she kept telling me, "It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. We're going to have fun." And we did. He redeemed himself. Mm-hmm. He was very nice, very friendly, made me laugh. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the thing that got me, is he's made me laugh every day since then. Mm-hmm. And it just, I don't know, it was just right. Mm-hmm. It just felt comfortable. And it's just the thing that I just knew. Wow. When I looked in his eyes, and I just knew. It was like coming home.
Oh my gosh, that's beautiful.
we would say, people would say, 2 weeks and you're getting married. And it was, I know, but I just know. It was just something I know. And, then, and it helped when he went and had to talk to my parents, and he talked to my sweet little mother, and who put the fear of God in him. And, so I knew it was okay. If he made it through Mom, then I was good. And here we are, 32 years later.
Wow, 32 years. And so obviously you said yes that night.
Yes, I did.
Wow, so were
certainly
you
did.
surprised when you saw
I was,
the ring?
and it was really funny because the thing that surprised me is when he came out and put that dish in front of me and said, give this to your dad, and I'm thinking, he can't have peach cobbler, he's a diabetic. and I'm just really kind of confused, had no clue whatsoever. Wow. And then finally when I looked up and realized everybody's staring at me, I was like, oh my, okay.
Wow.
And it's, yes, so.
My goodness.
It's just,
That's beautiful. And I love that because a lot of people, including myself, you second guess, you think, the timing, is the timing right? Is the timing right? But because I thought that too after both Mike and I had just gotten out of marriages, and we met, and then next thing you know, we were dating, and then we got married, and people told and shared with Mike, I think it's too soon after you've lost your wife, and me as well, but it was all God, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
It was all God.
I had prayed before I went. I said, look, God, I don't want to meet this girl. I don't want to know anything about her. If she's not the one, get rid of her. And I mean, just as blunt as that, I said, I don't want to get in another relationship long term or anything like that. I just want to be done with her if she's not the one. And obviously he showed me that night that she was the one.
and it's just been that way ever since. I mean, no one knows me like he does. I know him. We finish each other's sentences. We will say something and he'll start laughing going, I was thinking the exact same thing. And we've been that way. And it's definitely a God thing.
Yes, for sure. Well, let's go back a little bit and let's talk about what kind of kiddos you guys were in high school, middle school. Were you involved in athletics? Were you involved in music? Tell me a little bit about your activity.
I was a real shy kid. I didn't say a whole lot. And to a point, I guess I'm still that way. I don't talk a lot unless I'm very comfortable. And it takes me a little bit to warm up. But I was a really shy girl. And I was a daddy's girl. And so, you'd find me anywhere Dad wanted to go, that's where I was going. And he was a Navy reservist. And so when he would go on weekend, sometimes he'd take me. And that was just, I went everywhere Dad went. I grew up in Burleson till I was in 6th grade and then moved to Fort Worth. And that's where I spent the rest of my time in junior high and high school. And I was just always the kind of, I have a best friend who's still my best friend to this day. And I was kind of like her Robin to her Batman. Okay. I was the sidekick. And I was perfectly happy with that. And I guess I'm still that way. I'm comfortable in that position. I have my own thoughts, my own feelings, and I was that way as a kid. But I'm okay being the buddy. Gotcha. I don't have to be out in front. But I was a singer. I sang in high school in the choir, but I was very big in my church singing and sang in the church choir. And we had these times where we would do competitions, and we would sing in front of our church. You had a local, and then you had to sing in front of a group of churches in your area. And then you went to a bigger one where it included some of your state. And so I would go through those things. And that was my life. It was church and church camp. And anytime church was open, that's how I grew up. That was my foundation. But I've always enjoyed singing. Singing is, to me, it's where I know my soul is. It's where I feel God is in music. And it doesn't have to be music as in instruments. It can be like right now, watching the leaves blow and the wind. To me, that's music. And it's just something that drives my soul. And I've been that way since a kid, since I was young. And even as I went through college, again, the shy one that was the buddy. But I was just always into that, into music. And though I don't sing in a choir now, but it's interesting because I feel like I've passed that on to my children.
Really?
That they are all musically inclined and good singers. And that's something that I am proud of.
Of course. Does she sing well, Greg?
Oh, yes.
Yes, maybe she'll sing us a little tune later.
I don't know. If it comes to me, I'm not musically inclined. I play the radio, and I don't sing. I sing sometimes, but people would say, "Oh, Lord, please let him stop."
So what kind of kiddo were you?
I was very involved in sports and all growing up. I was involved in athletics, in track and football in high school, and I got a football scholarship to go to TCU for when I got out of high school, and went there, played football, got hurt while I was there, hurt my back, and had to have back surgery.
Oh, wow.
And I was thinking, okay, no big deal, I'll get better and I'll play again. And they told me that, they said, well, you could play again, but if you break the fusion that we did in your back, you'll be paralyzed. And I did just like this. I said, hold on. I think God's got other things for me. I just paused a second and said, nah, we got other things to do. So I just went on, graduated TCU, and then went out, started working, and very soon after that was when I met Stacy. So I just, athletics and sports has been a part of my life the whole time. After we were married and all, I was involved in coaching, and before that in camps and coaching and all. And then I started teaching. Actually, I started coaching. I wanted to coach, but they told me, they said, you've got to be a teacher also.
Yes.
I said, oh, okay. Well, then I'll do that then. So I started out teaching for 2 years, and with the intention of weaving my way in and getting a coaching position, which is exactly what I did. So
Okay,
did that
good.
and enjoyed that.
I love that. And so then you guys, so you were very athletic and you musically inclined, and then you guys meet, you get married, you have children?
Yes, ma'am. We had 5 children. We've got 4 still that are around, and then we had a little boy. Our first little boy, he passed away when he was 13 months old. He was allergic to a medicine that they gave him, and he had Stevens-Johnson syndrome, and he passed away from that. And
So basically, it's a rash that just takes over on the outside of his body, and then on the inside, it's just an infection that eats away at you.
Oh, my
And
goodness.
so he lasted 10 days and in the hospital, and they debrided him like a burn victim because you had to get the infection off. But
he was 13 months old, but he lasted. He got it. He was 10 days. He
Gotcha.
lasted 10 days in the hospital.
so, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
And we sat down the week of his funeral, actually the week of his going home service. That's what we called that, because it was. And we sat. I remember sitting on the side of the bed. We said, "Okay, we can do one of 2 things. We can sit here and close up, and no one would blame us. No one is going to think anything bad about us because we just lost our baby, or we can go on. We were planning on having more kids anyway, and we can have more kids and just go on from there." Which I say that, but I was lying because I had everything I wanted. I had a little boy who was, I always say, he was left-handed, so he was my left-handed quarterback. So that was no problem. We had, take him to some TCU games and stuff like that, and that was all I needed. I didn't need any more kids. And when he passed away, I was like, okay, well, I guess we're gonna have more kids. So when Stacy got pregnant a couple months after that, and we found out it was twins. So when we had our twins, we went to the appointment to the sonogram, and the lady says, "Okay, do you want to know what it is?" We'd already decided yes, we did, and so she's moving around, and I was paying very close attention to the screen, and I thought, how did that head pop up twice so quick? I mean, I was just thinking, I was like, okay. And I was sitting on this little bitty stool beside the bed, beside the thing she was, doing. She goes, okay, it's twofers. You got twins. And Stacy, I don't remember what Stacy was doing, because I was sitting on this stool, and I started falling off of it. I was just like, oh my gosh. And she reached out and grabs me, and I kind of came to. I was like, okay, all right, And we went on, and we were going to the car. I still remember this like it was yesterday. And we're sitting in the car, and Stacy she's crying. I said, what's wrong? She said, this is my fault. It's all my fault. And I said, well, I'm kind of a smart aleck. I said, well, I had something to do with it.
That's right.
It's not your fault. She says, no. She said, when we lost Reese, and this was in the same year, we lost him in March the 12th, and so we were pregnant, and the twins actually were born 2 months early. They were born in December of the same year. But she says, it's my fault because I prayed that God would give me twins so that I'd be so busy I wouldn't think about Reese so much. And I thought, wow, okay.
So share a little bit about that.
Well, and that's I still remember the day I prayed it. It was a bad day. And you talk about being prostrate, and I was laid out, and I was crying, and I had been crying, and I was tired. You get to the point where you can't cry anymore. You have no tears left, nothing, and I was there, and I just remember yelling at God, and literally yelling at him, screaming, and saying, I can't do the pain anymore. I can't do this. I'm not going to end my marriage, because that was never a thought in our minds to end our marriage. It just, we were going to go through this together. And I remember thinking, okay, we want to have more children, so God, give me twins. Because the only way I'm going to be able to get through this is if I have so much going on, if there's so much that I have to do that I don't have time to feel the pain. That I can give my love to something else, even though it's still there and it still hurts, but that's what I need. And that's what happened. An interesting thing is I prayed for a boy and a girl twin, and I got 2 girl twins. And what's interesting is I knew when they were born that was God telling me, I heard your prayer, and I'm going to give you what you asked for, but I'm going to give it to you my way. I'm not going to give you a son. I'm going to give you girls, because I don't want you to forget Reese. I want you to remember that, but I want you to lean into me, not lean into the children. And it's been that way ever since.
Wow.
They were my answer to prayer.
I mean, I could even imagine going and having the sonogram after you've prayed that prayer, and then finding out that it's twins. I would be just, wow, God.
It was the most, he said he didn't know what I was doing. I remember sitting there and just being so blown away, because, I was raised in a Christian home. My mother was, and my father too, were very faithful people. My mother was a prayer warrior that if she couldn't find her keys, she immediately started praying. And that just, I knew prayer. So it wasn't foreign to me.
Or if the car didn't start.
Yeah, if the car didn't start, we started praying, because it was going to, my sister and I used to tease say that my mother had the bat phone to God. And because you needed something, you called Tam, she'd pray. So I knew prayer. I knew it worked. But I had never had it that in my face, that bam, right there. And at that moment, I remember just sitting there being so blown away that God heard me. Because I remember when I was going through that time and I was yelling, and I felt horrible because I'm screaming at God. I'm being so hateful. And I didn't think he'd ever forgive me for the things that I said because they weren't nice.
Of course. Yeah.
But at that moment, I felt so loved. And so because he heard me.
Yes. Yes.
And I didn't know what was going to happen after that. I didn't know, but it was going to be okay because God heard that prayer, and there was no doubt that's what it was because I knew I had been so specific.
Yes. Wow. I mean, that is mind blowing, and to have heard the Lord say, "I'm going to give you twins, but I'm going to give you twin girls," and I answered your prayers, but I'm answering it my way. And how beautiful is that? So that you would not forget race, not that you would, but so that you would have to lean into Him, and that you would be grieving the loss of your son. And that's beautiful. Wow. And so you have two girls. You guys have twin girls.
We had twin girls, and
And then we had the next couple of years, following years, we had McGregor and Jackson, and
so I did get my boys.
Did.
But it was in God's time.
That's right.
and I mean, since then, after that, we just, like any other family, just kind of went on, and went through a lot of different things. When I decided that I wanted to teach, I told Stacy. She goes, "Well," she goes, "I have to tell you then." And at this time, Jackson's the youngest, and he had started kindergarten. And Stacy told me, she said, "Well," because her degree was in teaching, but she had never taught before. And she said, "I want to teach too." I was like, "Okay." So we both started teaching, and that's things are going well. That's when about 3 years or so in is when I hurt my foot. Maybe it was about 2 years in. I hurt my right foot. I was at track practice, and a guy I had told the kids, walk the discus back up to the ring. I was coaching discus at the time, and because they had hit someone in the head with a discus the week before, but luckily it came and it hit him like this and just kind of bounced off. I told the kid, "You just had a hard head. That's why you're okay." So, and when I hurt my foot, I was walking across, the ring was here, I was walking across, and a kid had rolled the discus up there to the ring from like 150 feet out. And he yelled, when he saw what was going to hit me, he yelled, Coach, look out." And I just happened to look down. I was looking up, I looked down, and hit me right in the instep. I found out later on, I just thought it hit me and hurt. I found out that it crushed my foot.
Oh, wow.
I went from about, I think it was April until August, thinking, "Oh, it'll get better. It'll get better." I didn't go to the doctor. It'll get better, kind of like most guys are.
Yes.
Or a lot of guys are.
Yes.
Don't want to go to the doctor, whatever. And I went in August and had surgery. That was my first of over 4 years. I had over 25 surgeries on my right foot, and then I went in and he told me, "You need to have it amputated. We need to amputate this now." I said, "That's great," because I still remember at 2 years into this deal, I told him, I said, "Just take it off, cut it off."
So what was wrong? I mean, you had the surgery, you found out
well,
your foot was crushed, but what?
They had surgery and they didn't take, and some of the surgeries, they put hardware in there. Some of it was to fix the hardware, take it out and put in new hardware and all that. One time I went to the doctor, I said, "I think there's something wrong." Couldn't feel it a lot, and there was a screw that they had put in. I went into the doctor, I said, "I think there's something wrong." He said, "Well, what makes you think that?" I said, "This screw is sticking out of my foot." So, he freaked out. He said, "Okay, we got to go now." And he was down the street from the hospital. And so we went there, and he took care of that and took it out and all that stuff. But then he finally, said, "Hey, we got to take this off." I said, "Good. I've been waiting for this time." can you do it tomorrow? He said, no, we have to get insurance approval first and all that, but we'll schedule it for first part of next week. So,
And every time they had this surgery and he would go through it, the foot just kept collapsing. It wouldn't ever stay and mold back together. And so they had to do more because it would always just collapse. And it got to the point where the foot was almost just like this little rubber, and it just wasn't anything there. It was just
And so what were you thinking, Greg?
I just was heartbroken because it was so difficult because he was in so much pain constantly. And then they would begin to put him on so much pain medicine that, I mean, the kids still talk about how there's one whole Christmas he doesn't even remember because he was on so many painkillers.
I asked him, I remember asking him, where'd you get that? He said, you gave it to us for Christmas. I was on so much pain medicine. And I tell a story about, I was still teaching and still going on. And I had some boys come in one afternoon, like 6th or 7th period. And they said, Coach Clark, have you taken medicine today? And I said, well, yeah. Why? He said, okay, good. I said, no, why? They both look at each other and kind of look down. And I said, you can tell me, it's okay. They said, well, we like high Coach Clark better than we like mean Coach Clark. And it wasn't that I was mean. I was just in so much pain that I was mean. And I realized then, wow, I need to do something about this. You know.
Gotcha.
So
That was a frightening time.
Yeah.
Because he was in so much pain, and the only thing that he could even function was to be on those painkillers. But it wasn't. I mean, you see stories about that, and it is so very true because he was so. The only word, addicted to it, because that was the only relief he could get. And so then,
when I did the when they offered me the surgery, hey, well, let's amputate your leg, then I was looking at that as, okay, that's the way to get me out of pain. Just take it off, do what you want. Just, I won't be in so much pain anymore. So they did that. That's the first amputation, below the knee on the right leg. And then we moved. I didn't teach that year. That's in December 16. So we moved then in July of 17 to Onalaska, Texas, which is down in southeast Texas.
Okay.
To coach and teach with a friend of mine that I had taught with at H.F. Stevens. And so we went down there, and everybody was in college, and Jackson went with us. He was he's a freshman.
Okay.
So I got sick, had an upper respiratory infection in like October or so. Middle of October, and went in the hospital and spent a couple of days in the hospital. And while I was there, I was hopping around on my left leg because I didn't have my right leg, and I got a staph infection in my left foot while I was in the hospital. And then fast forward, it was only 3 weeks. I told him, I said, I don't feel good. I don't feel right. And 3 weeks later, they carried me out of a basketball game, rushed me to the hospital. Stacy and Jackson did. We were in the middle of nowhere in this little town playing a basketball game, and so Stacy, they took me
in my truck,
in Stacy's truck to the hospital. I told her, I said, look, the only things I remember, I said, go buy this one. Don't stop there because I will die there. And because I was septic that day, I had passed out in school while I was teaching, and these kids were later. They said, "We thought you had fallen asleep," and I just was sitting there when I was talking and just passed out. I was so septic, and so the last thing I remember is telling her that, and then her pulling out onto Highway 59 and putting her truck sideways in the road and, taking off. And Jackson later told me, he said, "Dad, I didn't know the mom's truck would go that fast." So we went to Kingwood, and I still had on a suit and everything. And I said, I was awake then. I said, "I'll go inside, and y'all park the truck and be in there." And I remember walking in, and I must have looked horrible because these people I said, "I think I need to see a doctor." And two nurses took off, went out and around to come around and get me. This one male nurse jumped over the desk that was there and caught me like this. I was falling down, and I remember them put me in the wheelchair and then starting down the hall. I don't remember anything else. Wow. Until I woke up. We were about an hour from home, and they had sent Stacy and Jackson home. They said what they said.
Yeah, they said he's going to be here a while. We've got him on medication. He's resting. Y'all go home and rest, and we'll call you because we're probably going to do surgery, but it's going to be a while. It'll be in the morning. So we left.
And I remember the next thing I remember, the doctor comes to me and he says, "I need you to call your wife." I said, "Okay." Again, being smart, I said, "What can I tell her that you can't?" Mm-hmm. And he looks me in the eye and he said, "You're going to die."
Oh my God.
I said, again, still messing around, I said, "Well, we're all going to die. How long have I got?" He said, "I'm sorry." He said, "You got about 10 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
And I said, I just kind of collected myself and I said, "Okay, give me a phone."
Okay, Greg, what, I can hardly talk, my eyes are watering, but what were you thinking? If a doctor tells you that, I'm trying to think, what would I do?
I called Stacy. I said, "Hey, you need to come back up here," because he told me we was in her home. We didn't think we were going to do anything in the morning, but we got to take you to surgery now. He said, "I want you to talk to her." And knowing that she was an hour away, he thought I'd be dead in that hour. Mm. And so I got on the phone with her. I said, "Hey, I need you to come back up here." And I remember I was out all this time and all this time afterwards, but I remember this so vividly. I said, "I need you to come back up here because the doctor says I'm going to die. He says I'm going to have 10 minutes. I told Stacy, I said, "I want you to come up here because I don't want to die by myself." Mm-hmm. And that's all I remember the conversation with her. I don't remember where we got the phone, or I don't know how and I handed the phone back to him. And the Lord told me, I just knew I'm not going to die. Mm. And I looked at him, he said, "I'm sorry." I said, "No." I said, "You take me into surgery. This was below the knee." I said, "You take the leg off, whatever you got to do. Do the doctor stuff that you do. Mm-hmm. But I want you to know I'm not going to die." He says, "You are. I'm sorry, you are." I said, "You hide and watch." I said, "You don't know my God." Mm. And he looked at me. This was a Muslim man. Mm. He looked at me. He's okay. He said, "We'll take you in and do what we have to do, but I'm sorry." And we went into surgery. I don't remember any of that stuff. I remember waking up in intensive care, and we don't have time to talk about that. But I'll say one thing. I woke up and I was like, "Okay, I'm leaving." Here I am, got tubes everywhere and all this, and I got out of bed with no legs, below the knee, and I crawled out, and I was going to crawl, And so all this stuff started going off. This guy comes in. He's this huge guy, muscled up guy. He's the nurse. My nurse, he said, "What are you doing?" He says, I said, "I'm getting out of here." He said, "You don't have any legs, sir, to get out of here. You can't do that. We have to have you hooked up to this." And so he sat down on the floor with me. I said, "Look, I'm leaving." I said, "You give me, I got a prosthetic out there somewhere. You give me that prosthetic, give me a wheelchair, and I'll get out of here. I'll get out of your hair." And so he's like, "We can't do that. You know, you gotta stay here." So he talked to me a little bit, and he said, "Okay." He said, "I'm going to put you back in the bed now." Well, at the time, I was, not then, I'll tell you about that in a second, but I was 6'7", about 300 pounds. I said, "You can't put me back in that wheelchair. I mean, you can't put back in that bed." He goes, "Watch me." And this was one of the biggest guys I've ever seen, just, you know, and he says, "Watch me." He got up, he squatted down, he put his arms around me like this, and stood up and put me back in the bed. I was
Manhandled you. He
I
got
was
you in
like,
there.
"Oh my gosh." And Jackson told me later, he said, "Dad, that guy was huge." I said, "He had to be, you know, to do all this stuff."
course.
So,
So I'm going to stop you for 1 second,
Yeah.
Greg, because you shared what you were feeling when the doctor told you you had 10 minutes to live. Stacy, I put myself in y'all's positions. First of all, the relationship that you guys have, the marriage that you have, it is so beautiful. I have to tell you, like, it is, it's inspirational. I admire it. I've seen just even little posts on social media, and very little because you guys aren't big social media posters, but I could see and feel like, wow, just a great team, a great couple. So when you get that phone call and Greg is been told he has 10 minutes.
That, to this day, I can't honestly say I would start to say that was the worst day of my life, but it was probably the worst day of my life. And I remember, I had finally been able to go to sleep, finally got Jackson to calm down and go to sleep, and get this phone call. My mom always said, no phone call in the middle of the night is ever good. And so I had that thought, and he starts saying this, and I'm like, no, they said go home. They wouldn't have told me to go home. I wouldn't have, it's an hour away, I'm not going to make it. And so he's telling me goodbye, and I'm saying, no, you're not going to tell me goodbye. And so I told him I loved him, and I hung up the phone. To this day, I struggle with this. Because as a mother, it was the worst thing I ever did. And every day I think of it. And I looked, and my son was asleep. He was tired. He had played basketball, and he was worn out, and this was emotional. He was the only child there. Well, our other kids were at college, and we hadn't told them this was going on. We didn't want them to worry. So he was by himself. And he didn't want to wake up. And I couldn't wake him up. And I kept thinking, I got to get there. I've got to get there. It's an hour away. How am I going to get there? And I looked at my son in his face, and I said, your dad is going to die if you don't wake up. And now I look at that and think, what kind of mother tells her child that? But I also know at the time, I was going through it as well.
Absolutely.
I was human.
Absolutely.
I was scared.
Absolutely.
And I knew I had to be strong. Remember, I said as a kid, I was always the buddy. This is not me to be out there and be in charge. He's the one that takes care of things. He's the problem solver. And suddenly, my lifeline was gone. And I knew they were going to put him in surgery, and I didn't know what was going to happen when I get there. But I knew that I had to get my son there. But he was human. And he was tired, and he didn't want to wake up.
Yes.
And that was the only thing I knew to say. And it did. It shot him up. But I also know I scarred my son that day. And we struggle with that, and that's something we're working with still. But I drove. I've never driven that fast since then. And I got there, and we got to the hospital, and it was 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning. There's nobody in the hospital. It's dead, and I don't know where to go. I don't know where we are because he was not in the place I left him. We ended up, they sent us to the floor, and we found him, and I walked in, and I had managed to, as we were in the way in, grab Jackson some food. So he had his food with him, and we go in, and bless their hearts, I couldn't be a medical professional because you have to wear so many different hats.
Yes.
And on hindsight, I know they were doing their job. But I walk in, and all they were concerned about was that my son brought food into this room. and I just remember, you're kidding me. This is where we're going with this. And I will say this. I think every medical professional that has been in Greg's life has been there for a purpose. It has been who needed to be there because the doctor's assistant was there. And I don't know if it's the look on my face or Jackson or what, but he immediately stepped in front of this doctor, said, no, he's fine. Where are we going to take her? What can we tell her? And he just immediately jumped in because at that moment I couldn't take it anymore.
Absolutely.
And, you know, all this is going on.
Yes,
And
yes.
so we sit and we wait. And, that surgery was 7 hours. And we're just waiting. And I don't know to this point if he's dead because no one will tell me anything. So I'm still sitting here, don't know if we've made it in time. Because nobody can tell me. No, we don't know yet. We don't know yet. And I'm just going, well, because they haven't come out and told me he's dead. So apparently maybe he's not. But I've still got my son scared to death. And they finally came out and said that he was okay, that he got through the surgery, and they had to take the leg. But we were going to have to see how he did in the next few hours. And, you know, and I'm still thinking, okay, I've got my other children who still have no clue this is going on. And he could have died, and I didn't stop to call and tell them that, hey, your dad could have died. And a lot of mistakes were made as a mother. I struggle with that every day because mothers are supposed to protect their children. That's what we do. And I didn't want to worry my girls and McGregor when they're at school. They've got enough going on. They've got finals and things that are happening on. And yes, this was something that was traumatic, and their father was very well losing his life. But I didn't know anything.
Right.
I didn't know what to tell them. I didn't have any answers, and I couldn't get them there. And so in my mind, let them have that peace that they're in and going through that. And then if the worst happens, then I would figure out how to handle it.
Right.
But at that time when I couldn't get them there, and they're 8 hours away.
Right.
With no way to get there. To me, in my mind, that was worse.
And I think that would be the decision I would make. I mean, you can't get your children, they're 8 hours away. And they're, you know, we as Christian loving parents, mothers, we too wear a lot of hats, and we make the best decisions in the moment for our children. And it's amazing how we truly do. We truly think of our children, and we truly make the best decisions that we can at the moment. Are they always right? No, they're not always right. But as loving, we would never make decisions to intentionally hurt our children. We protect them. And I've made tons of those decisions, and I've made tons of decisions of get up or your father's going to die. I've made those said words, but I think that our children know who we are as mom and dad, and they know that we would never intentionally say anything to hurt them because we love them. What kind of people would we be if we did? And we're not perfect, and neither are they. And that's where God's grace, mercy, and forgiveness comes, right? And healing comes from those words that we say to our children that we didn't mean to, but we did. Yeah. And but God is good, and He's a forgiving, loving God, and merciful.
He is, and He has tempered me. Yes, that might not have been what you would have wanted to say, but you're human. You were scared, you were hurting, And there was no right or wrong way to do that.
That's
It
right.
just was. But the whole time, as fearful and as upset as I was, I still had this overwhelming calm. It's kind of like being in the eye of the storm. You know it's all going on, and you can see it going on, and that's scaring you enough because you can see it. But in the middle of it, you're just moving, you're just going, and no matter what has ever happened in our lives, and we sat down one thing, and you talk about the tragedies a person can have in their life. We've had just about every one of them, but God's always been there. I've not made the right choices. I've not done things that I should have. I've might have been over here, and God's road's here, and I'm over here.
Right.
But He's never been out of my sight. I always knew He was, and it was always, and I'm still this way. I always know that I might not be right on His path where He wants me to be. I might not be always obedient like I should be. But I know He's still there. No matter what I do, He's always going to be there. And I've learned that. You know, from the day I laid face first screaming at God, I learned there's not ever anything I can do that's going to make Him walk away.
That's right.
Now,
that's what's so beautiful.
That's what's so
about his
good about
love.
it. Now, He may look at me, and I can understand it as a parent when I'm making these choices, and He's going, if you just come over here and let me help you, if you just do it. I know I frustrate Him, but He never goes away.
That's right.
You know, I may not talk to Him sometimes as much as I should, but when I come back, it's like He's been there. I just
Yes.
crawl up in that big chair and sit in His lap. And even in this horrible time, I still knew that. I still had that just a coat that just...
Isn't that amazing? It's an amazing feeling to be in the eye of the storm and still feeling all the chaos and the emotions of, oh my gosh, am I going to get there? And I said something to my son, but is my husband going to make it? Is he going to die? 7-8 hours of surgery. Is he alive? Is he going to make it? But still, in the midst of all of that, there is that sense of calmness, whether people see it or not. You can feel it, and you know God's with you, and you know you're not alone. You know you're not alone. And He is our big Father who, yes, looks at all of us and thinks, oh, I'm sure He looks at me and thinks, man, kid, what are you doing? And sometimes I'm like, I know, but I'm just gonna, and He's like, okay. But He's there when we come back, and He's
always
never
there.
left us.
Always
never left
there.
us.
And
Wow, Stacy, I that is a lot. That is a lot, and but sharing that you knew and and you felt that God was with you the whole time gives others hope, knowing that in the midst of our troubles, and He said, in this world you will have troubles, and He told us, He wasn't lying, and but to take heart that He's overcome the world, and He has. And so, Greg, I'll get back to you. And you said that this big man picks you up and put
me in the bed. And this was a Friday night, Saturday morning that this has happened. And so I don't remember a lot about Saturday and Sunday. And Monday, the doctor came in the room and he said, hey, and he was kind of real hesitant to say anything. But then he says, the way I had to do the surgery and the way it all happened, I have to tell you that you'll never be able to walk again. And I just didn't miss a beat. I remember I said, okay. I said, you told me the other night that I was going to die. And I told you, you don't know my God. So I'm going to tell you again, you don't know my God. I said, I'm not trying to be disrespectful to you, but my God's bigger than that. And he's like, okay. Just went on. So just went on through the hospital, through the next few days. And on Thursday, I got out. Well, I told him I'm leaving.
He escaped.
Yeah. And the doctor told me later on when I went to see him, he said, I went in Friday and went in your room and you weren't there. I said, where's Mr. Clark? And he told me this. He said, the nurse said, oh, excuse me, it's Coach Clark. And he said he had students to teach and a team to coach, and he was leaving. And I wheeled myself out of there. Went there, and I remember
Went straight to basketball practice.
their basketball practice, and I went in there and wheeled myself in, and the JV and the varsity was there, and the kids went crazy, and they came and they tackled me in my wheelchair, and I fell over and fell out and all this stuff, and then they helped me up, and that's just the way it was.
They thought he died.
Yeah.
The way we left the basketball game is they thought he died.
Yeah, I remember two of my boys carried me out, like picked me up and carried me out, and they didn't know if I was going to live or die. And so, fast forward then a few months, and I had my final appointment with my doctor. He was going to release me and all, and I walked in there, and with my prosthetic on both legs, and he's standing back there at the room, just looks at me, and he starts clapping. I thought, that's kind of odd. He's kind of being smart aleck. He said, I want you to know that, he said, I told everybody about you. All our, 17 partners in the practice, I told them about you. And I told them what you told me, but that I didn't know your God, and that he was bigger than that. And he said, I didn't know what you meant then. He said, one of my, the way I remember that, he said, one of my partners said, do you know what he was talking about? And he said, no. And this partner was a Christian. He said, I want to tell you about that. So this man who was Muslim, he came to, I'm saying that he came to know who Jesus was
Because he
through
said,
this.
I know your God.
Wow.
And
Wow.
then
Greg.
then we went out of there and continued on.
Every medical person we met with in our entire marriage has been for a reason.
Absolutely. And, people think about what, sometimes we question ourselves and think, what is my purpose? What is my purpose? That was huge.
Yeah.
To witness to someone else so that they who didn't know your God, and who would have ever known, but God's purpose during that moment was so you don't know my God, and then you see him and you live, and then you walk into the office, and then he says, I know your God. Wow. You are both so inspiring to me, really inspiring to me. So thank you both for coming and sharing.
You're welcome.
So my final question to both of you is, after all that you've been through, Greg and Stacy, from your childhood, your best days, the hard stuff, to today, after everything that you have been through, who would you say Greg Clark is today? And who would you say Stacy Clark is today? Who are you today? Who are you today?
Wow. A mess?
Stacy!
So a little levity there. No.
It's true. No.
I think I'm a piece of coal that sometimes is shiny, sometimes it's rough. But it's just the way God made me.
Yes.
And I'm still growing, and I'm not finished yet. And I probably won't ever be finished until I walk into the pearly gates. And then I'll be finished. But until then, I'm going to be the messy lump of coal. And some days I'm going to shine, and it's going to look like the most beautiful, brilliant diamond out there. And some days it's going to look like a piece of mud. But that's okay because that's who God made me, and I'm learning each and every day to embrace that. And I'm not junk. My dad taught me this a long time ago, that I am not junk because God doesn't make junk.
That's right.
I am beautiful on my messy days and beautiful on my good days. And I'm still growing. I'm not finished yet.
That's right.
That's who I am.
I love that. That's beautiful. Greg?
You asked that, and I thought immediately, I thought that I'm just somebody who tries to learn from yesterday and tries hard to do better today. Some days I make it, some days I don't, so I go backwards. But I tell my kids this, that I teach, we just learn a little bit every day. And I've told them, I said, in my class you're going to learn the ELA and the English language arts and the reading, the writing, all that stuff. You're going to learn that stuff no matter what. But what we're going to learn the most of is how to do this life. I'm going to be honest with you and tell you how I'm feeling. You can be honest with me. You can know that you said earlier that you're safe in here.
Yes.
And I look at that, I just try to be better every day. And most days I'm not, but I try. And just go on from there.
That's right. Well, I'll tell you, the world and the education school system is a better place with Coach Clark and Mrs. Clark in it. That is for sure. I know that firsthand from my daughter being in your class. I know that firsthand for you being a very giving, loving woman. Your marriage is inspiring. You guys are both just amazing people, and that's who you are. You're beautiful, inspirational people who make me want to be a better person, a better mother, a better wife. And I thank you both so much for coming on and sharing your story. Wow.
Thank you for having us.
The opportunity, yes.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. Thank you guys so much for joining me. And we look forward to seeing you guys next time on No Judgment Here with Tish Ross, the podcast. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you next time. Good night.
I know I'm going to be in a wheelchair full time at some point in my life, but it's not today.
Right.
Well, I had just, after this left leg go up the knee, I said, well, I guess now's the time. It's the time. And I started realizing I'm in a part of a bunch of Facebook groups and stuff like that. And I saw these people walking and that had the above the knee amputation and using crutches and all that stuff, And some people just walk normal as can be. That's just, that amazes me.
Yeah. It's,
but I was like, I'm going to start trying more.
nice.
Just hold on to it.
Okay. Got you.
Too proud to say, grab me.
I got you.
I'm going to get behind you here right away. If you go, I go with you. Just be ready up front.
I got you.
Okay, you can go backwards
Yeah.
and I'll
I'll
move
find.
right. Go to the left a little bit.
I know.
Okay,
Oh.
got you.
Okay. For Father's Day, because he refused to eat one. And of course, people are not going to do that. Then you have like that. Come on. And first I was like, oh no, I don't want to do that. I just had a regular trip. Then somebody was like, cool. The doctor over there.
This is your Prospera era, where dreams align with grace, abundance flows like rivers. You've stepped into your place. Rise, reign, and remember, you were born to shine.
hope you enjoyed today's show on Prospera TV Network. Make it a point to visit us on YouTube and catch all your favorite shows anytime you want. Interested in hosting a show of your own? Or advertising your business on our network? Contact Elena Rodriguez.